Joining us now to talk more about the latest developments out of the Middle East and what we've seen so far, we have journalist and war correspondent Christina Pascucci with us. Christina, I want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise as we're all trying to make sense of what we're seeing.
There's a lot to make sense of. No problem. Good to be with you.
Yeah, a ton to be said. Before we get to what is happening tomorrow as far as lawmakers getting that briefing that we just talked about, I'd like to just talk to you as one who has covered wars and been in war zones. Is anything sticking out to you as unusual? For example, what do you make of the president saying it's a one and done? You know, he had the strike on Saturday and he's saying, hey, everything's over and there's no need to have any type of peace agreement with Iran.
This has been fascinating to watch. I think this is anything but normal with what we've seen. I mean, the news cycle and what you see in 24 hours is just enough to make your head spin. And the same thing here. It's really interesting because if you're looking at reports out of Iran, they are declaring a historic, as they call it, victory following the 12-day war. And so it just depends where you're watching and who you ask. I do think the intelligence report coming out this week will be extremely telling, because we do have the president saying one thing that, you know, for example, even that the nuclear capability of Iran was completely obliterated. And then you have the main atomic energy agency, the nuclear atomic energy agency, saying very different things, as well as our allies like France. And so this is something we need to watch very closely, but diplomacy will be absolutely mission critical.
Do you also think, Christina, that we may learn more about how this ceasefire works? Like, what did they agree to and what are they supposed to be doing moving forward in order for it to stay in place? Or do you think that it's anyone's guess at this point?
Well, on one end, it is anyone's guess, but there's so many unanswered questions. Like, you know, when you look at whether or not their program, Iran's program, was obliterated, as President Trump had said, did Iran transport some of that enriched uranium away from the sites before they were struck? And so there's so much we don't know. We have so many unanswered questions that we really need to have more insight around. And I think that will really help illuminate the answer to what you just asked. But also, everyone's trying to save face. There's a lot of egos that are working in this space, and Iran does not want to appear weak. Our military is much stronger than Iran, but were they also underestimated when it comes to their capacity and their nuclear program? And that remains to be seen too.
Right, and to that end of trying to save face, what do you make of, as someone who's covered wars, that President Trump is saying that Iran called him, gave him the heads up and said, hey, we're going to hit here. This is when it's going to happen, but we're not going to hit anything too significant. Is that unusual?
I think he's trying to project strength. And the last thing that anyone wants, I believe, is an added conflict in the Middle East. Iran and a lot of their proxies are extremely weakened. Iran is not in a great position at this point. And so that would be extremely atypical, but I could see some version of that being true in this case, because they want to be able to declare victory to their citizens and people that are watching from their end. But then they also don't want to do anything that could unleash the fury of the military, the U.S. military, onto them. That would not be a smart move for Iran, especially at a point where the Houthis and some of these other proxies that they've engaged with around the world have been significantly weakened by recent military conflicts.
All right, let's head here at home and what is happening here between lawmakers demanding answers from the Trump administration about that strike. What do you anticipate will come out of it as they set up to meet tomorrow?
Well, this is really interesting, too, because there's been a lot thrown around surrounding the constitutionality of this and was President Trump's action constitutional. I think I want to caution people here when we're talking about this, because when you look at even recent history, like President Obama, he struck Libya in 2011, and there was a lot of talk around whether that was constitutional or not, because he did it without the approval of Congress. So many are making parallels between what President Trump did and the actions of President Obama back then. What I've noticed from voters and people I've spoken to, they're becoming increasingly desensitized. And so when we talk about, oh, this is unprecedented, or, oh, this is unconstitutional, and you have politicians who are throwing these terms out and this language out, depending on which side of the aisle they're on, at one another, I think it's a very dangerous place to be, because you do not want people to be desensitized to this and then ultimately say, oh, well, we're just hearing again, it's unconstitutional. And then they stop listening. We do not want that to happen, because that ultimately could weaken our Constitution.
Well, at the risk of being one of those people, these are unprecedented times, but it seems like
Yeah,
it is
they
a word.
are. Yeah.
They really are. And it seems like it's a word, to your point, that we're literally saying every single day. It seems like, at least for the last year or so. So it's starting back to the election. Thank you so much for joining us again and giving us your expertise as a war correspondent. We really do appreciate your insight.